All right, so let's talk about Joe Rogan. Okay, this is going to be very short. I think this is a beat up news by now. Um, just in case you don't know what happened, this guy is number one podcaster in the world. Pretty much, he received like what was it, in 2020? He received like $100 million to have his content exclusively on Spotify. Okay, and recently a lot of situations have happened. He's got called out for using the N word uh, multiple times over and over. I'm going to play that clip here in a second, actually. And he's also apologized. And these are sizable books. They're minimum 200 pages. You can download them absolutely for free by simply going to, for example, this one, you just go to getmymarriageback.com, smartrealestatewholesaling.com, realestatemoneysecrets.com. So yes, I am a three times author, and those books are out there for your consumption, and they are also available everywhere on Amazon, anywhere that you pick up books. So in case you prefer a physical book like that, but it's become a matter of race. I generally don't speak much on race because it's not a subject that I understand all the way. I like to stay humble in this kind of subjects unless I understand it, and it's not something I wake up thinking about. Granted, it's a reality of a lot of people, uh, black people, people of color, whatever you want to call it. Um, is the reality that we still face, especially from a systemic standpoint. But let's not front. There are a lot of situations where you're interacting with individuals, and that racism thing is real. It's real, and I counted it later on, maybe in more recent years. I was very naive to it earlier on, maybe because I'm an African. I was raised in Africa, and being raised in Africa, you just kind of like things like that go way over your head because you're coming from what may seem like a worst case scenario, right? But we do know that the worst case scenario is the 400 years of slavery, of people enslaved, right, by the white supremacy. Uh, but again, when you're coming from a place of what many people may consider privileged, um, you may not see some things. But anyway, so that's a topic that's still evolving, right? And a lot of white people don't realize that they really can't afford to say certain things. Not just white people, even men, right? You get cancelled like that if you don't know how to operate in a society, right? And but he's apologized for it. But there's a lesson that I wanted to pull out of it for gentlemen. You're gonna make mistakes. That's the lesson I want to make out of this. Okay, you're gonna make mistakes. As a matter of fact, because of the space of privilege, white privilege that is in, is not going to be fired. As a matter of fact, the Spotify CEO just came out and said they're not going to silence him. That he doesn't think the right move is to silence him, right? And I have a feeling that if he was black, he will be absolutely silenced, right? If he like, let's say he offended women or something like that, right? But that's the unfair life that we live in, unfortunately. I'm not saying it should stay that way. I'm saying while it's still that way, we have to learn the game and learn how to operate in that game. And the lesson here I'm going to pull out of uh, out of here is it's a little bit, again, as usual, a little twisted, and not the usual. Not that he shouldn't be a racist. I don't know if I can teach him not to be a racist. If he's actually a racist, I think a racist is a racist generally speaking, right? But as men, there's a lesson we get is that if you can be cancelled, that means you didn't have your power in the first place, right? And you have to, but also it's about how you respond to situations in life. And I'm bringing in Jordan Peterson here to talk about this, to talk about how to respond to crisis. It's the same thing when we're talking about relationships. When crisis happens, when you find yourself in arguments with your lady, how do you respond to it? A lot of men think it's about being loud, right? About putting your feet down and just like put your feet down, right? But we know that that's not how it works, right? We know that that's a way to end up in jail if you're not too careful, right? And we also know that it's also a function. If you think that's the way, it's a function of your weakness. That's actually you being weak. You think that everything has to be physical or visually seen, and the most power in life is in silence. Let's retweet that, right? So let's go into the clip here. I want to play the clip of how all of this went over. Well, first of all, there's a guy called Neil Young, legendary artist, removed his music from Spotify. because he said he didn't want to support that platform because they're supporting the N-word, the use of N-word, not N-word, but because that they were supporting Rogan for a lot of misinformation about the pandemic and about the vaccination and all that kind of stuff. And then eventually, India Ree came out with this video about to play for you. India Ree is a R&B artist from the 2000s who also came out and said, well, there's a clip of so people were leaving and all that kind of stuff. Yes, a lot of people were leaving Spotify and stuff like that, right? But we also know that there's an active push against the mute me, cancel me culture, or cancel culture. There's a lot of push against that right now, part of which is the manosphere, which I appreciate that part of it because I don't think it's healthy to just outrightly think you can cancel people. I don't think that's healthy either. In life, the balance is always sweet in the middle, somewhere in the middle, not extremes of any angle, right? So let me play India Ree.
I want to leave a short message here about why I decided to ask my music be pulled off of Spotify. So check this out.
So she followed suit. She decided to remove her music because of the racist. She calls a racist, right?
No white people. Says, okay, take me to this one. And the guy goes, okay. I goes, is that in a good neighborhood? He's like, oh, yeah. Guy barely speaks English. He takes us there. We get out, and we're giggling. Oh, we're going to see Planet of the Apes. We walk into Planet of the Apes. We walked into Africa, dude. We walked in the door, and there was no white people. It says, okay, take...
I empathize with the people who are leaving for the COVID disinformation reasons, and I think that they should. I also think that Joe Rogan has the right to say what he wants to say. I also think that I have the right to say what I want to say. So
precisely. See, listen, everybody gets stuck on the argument that I have the right to do. Like, listen, you have the right. But people who will respond accordingly have the right to respond how they would respond, right?
So as an artist who builds, Spotify is built on the back of the music streaming. So they take this money that's built from streaming and they pay this guy $100 million, but they pay us 0.003% of a penny. Just take me off.
Now she's alluding to the fact that life is unfair again. Again, he's the one that's putting out content every day, pushing out content every day, content that's attracting 20 million listeners every year consistently. Can we really call that unfair? Okay. So now you're talking about you're being paid 0.003% of a cent. Yeah, that's how business works. Sorry, black woman, sorry.
I don't want to generate money that pays this. Just take me off. That's where I'm at. And I know that I'm actually, to be honest with you, surprised that my statements were picked up because I thought people weren't really going to listen to me because that's what I'm used to from the industry. But I'm glad that I am being heard, and for that reason, I want to clarify my statements. Again, this is why. Watch this.
Like, you know,
The nigger thing.
yes.
Saying the word nigger.
You've already said nigger. D is just like nigger.
Saying nigger.
She's calling you a nigger. It's like this boy that he's a nigger, but starts calling them niggers.
Word nigger. There should be a word like nigger, especially like the word nigger. That's our nigger. About niggers. He says nigger. Guy, a nigger. And then our niggers start saying nigger. Allowed to use the word nigger. Out the word nigger. See nigger. Word nigger. Say nigger, and he couldn't say nigger. And most nigger.
I would put that in context because obviously that was chopped up from different places, but I think she's gonna do justice with that.
So we know how social media can be. Things can be doctored. People are taken out of context. It's happened to me many times. However, I want to be clear in no uncertain terms. Where I stand on this is that he shouldn't even be uttering the word. Don't even say it under any context. Don't say it.
There you have it. She said, under any context, don't say the word. Okay? Under any context, don't say the word. Let me tell you something. I always tell people about this context thing, right? There's some things that I will hear and people will say, no, but they took it out of context. No matter what context it is, like if somebody hears that word, the word by itself is a trigger. And you as a gentleman in this society need to be aware of that. That's part of self-awareness. Don't come here and complain and say, hey, they took me out of context so they canceled me. No, That's part. Listen, sometimes you make mistake. We all make mistake. What I'm saying is that you should know now that in no matter what context, would it be okay for you to say it's okay to stomp women out on their chest? Okay? No matter what context, that's social construct. That's part of game. You should understand how things may transpire in the short term, how it's going to potentially become for you in the long term. And guess what? You have the right to be right. Like she said, right? You can say whatever you want, but the public get to respond how they respond. Don't ever forget that. And if that means they're taking your power away, that means you never had your power in the first place. You have to look at power with respect to the society and the times that you live in. You can bitch and complain about 1960s all you want. Times have changed and it will continue to evolve. Because what? Not because time, not because of social media, because people evolve. That's precisely what they do. You know? In context or out of context, that's a no on that word. She's right. And even he said any context, he was wrong. Yeah. But you see how I'm lumping it together with other topics right now. Yes, granted, we may say, hey, but it's not comparable. But again, if the society says it's comparable, especially as gentlemen, you need to understand that it's not about how many words you utter. It's about how much power you retain in your silence, right? It's about living an awesome life of love and not fumbling the bag. Both of the stories I'm covering today potentially could have fumbled the bag because they just have to, they don't know that there is extreme. Yes, you have to kind of find a sweet balance between, let me tell you something. Some things don't get attention unless it's extreme, unless it's fiery, unless it's controversial, right? That's just the reality of life. So sometimes you have to push the envelope a little bit, right? But be aware that if you push the envelope, if the word responds in a way then how you respond is everything. So now let's talk about how he responded. There's two responses I want to play for you. His apology, right? And I want to know your if you think his apology is authentic or not, right? Then how Jordan Peterson, I'm going to bring Jordan Peterson to this, right? How he thinks he should have responded, right? And I would agree with him, but I want to know if you agree with him or not.
The context, it looks terrible, but it looks terrible even in context. It's a fucking idiot made a clip out of it and taken out of context. It looks terrible, but it looks terrible even in context. It's a fucking idiotic thing to say, and I was just trying to be entertaining. I certainly wasn't trying to be racist, and I certainly would never want to offend someone for entertainment with something as stupid as racism. My hope is that, look, I can't go back in time and change what I've said. I wish I could. Obviously, that's not possible. But I do hope that this can be a teachable moment for anybody that doesn't realize how offensive that word can be coming out of a white person's mouth, in context or out of context. My sincere and humble apologies. I wish there was more that I could say, but all of this is just me talking from the bottom of my heart. It makes me sick watching that video, but hopefully at least some of you will accept this and understand where I'm coming from. My apologies and much love.
Now let's bring it back to men of prestige. Let's bring it back to men, okay? In general, you fucked up, you messed up, you made a boo-boo, right? Is that going to happen in life? Yes, it will happen, right? But I want to know, do you think this apology was sincere? He called it sincere, but we know that his actions speak louder than words, right? Now, he did say a lot more. He did re-narrated the Planet of the Apes joke, which was how he was with some Tommy. They were going to watch a movie, Planet of the Apes. I don't know, a taxi cab dropped them in the middle of a completely black neighborhood, and no white people whatsoever, blah, blah, blah. You know, Planet of the Ape, black people in the same sentence, you know, in Africa, all this kind of stuff. It's a terrible joke, right? He was pushing the edge. Probably somebody found it funny a few years ago when he made the joke, but again, he fucked up. Like most of us, we will do that sometimes. How you respond is everything. Okay? He said something, said he wished he had more words. No, you will never have more words. Actually, the more words you say, the more you dig a hole for yourself. Okay, you just go through that rabbit hole, it gets worse. And this goes for apologies in general. I think apologies in general are destructive if they are not a changed behavior. The best apology in life is a changed behavior, right? Now, how are you going to have change of behavior without time, space, and patience? It's impossible. So now that's going to be patience on your part, because you're going to get dragged, right? You're going to get dragged through the mud. You're going to get roasted and all this kind of stuff. So everything in you is going to say, hey, I need to say something. I need to make a statement, right? I need to say something, or potentially because of the fear of loss, right? Fear of missing out. You don't want to get canceled, right? You need to say something. But again, that's part of the reasons. That's part of the test. You're going to be tested, right? To say something. And then when you say something, it's highly risky. This apology was highly risky because people that you've offended tend to receive, they're looking for a place. They're actually actively listening for a place where they could pull you further down. The people that are listening to apologies, they're looking for a place where they can take even more offense because they feel offended already. And that tends to expand, even though that's not your intentions. So gentlemen, when you're tendering apology, sometimes it's necessary. For the most part, it's not. And that's what I think Jordan Peterson is going to speak to here really quickly. Let's play it.
Times this way.
Yeah.
The heat goes on, the pressure's on, you're in the desert, it's unpleasant. You wait it out. You wait it out. You wait it out. If you haven't done anything wrong, you wait it out. You don't apologize. You don't back down. You wait, and things viciously turn in your favor. Now, waiting it out while you're roasting, that's not pleasant. And if the Spotify types have any sense, they think, yeah, well, that's a drop, but you know, it's part of the death throes of the legacy media. And once all the dust settles.
See, waiting it out is something I teach all the time to young men. You have to have enough strength to wait things out. Majority of the lessons you're going to get from this platform is about waiting things out. That requires more strength than overreacting to things. Your overreactions are your actions, okay? Your overreactions are your actions that you will be responsible for, regardless of your intentions. Intentions are overrated. You may have good intention and it can still backfire. So waiting things out cannot be an extreme either. If you wait too long, it can also backfire. So it's about reading the room. It's about knowing the right time, right? But what happens when you wait things out?
CNN will have half the viewers they have now, and Joe Rogan will have twice the viewers, and we'll be doing just fine. And Rogan,
he's saying everybody will be all right, okay? And I know it sounds terrible. Oh, so everybody's gonna be all right. But again, we're talking about power dynamics, okay? I'm not talking about being fair. I'm not talking about doing the right thing or wrong thing. I think everybody's right thing or wrong thing is based on different moral compass. Depends on where you're coming from. People come from different backgrounds and stuff like that. But ultimately, what controls this world is the power dynamics. Okay? And a lot of that is in waiting. Okay? Even in the scriptures, you hear a lot of waiting on the Lord. Patience is a virtue. You hear that a lot. That's where strength lies. Not otherwise. Not otherwise. There are times that you are going to have to put your foot down and be assertive. But it's more often than none, it's usually in waiting things out and learning how to learning how to swim with the trend. Let the trend work in your favor. Let the oceans work in your favor, right? That's usually where the ability to be able to leverage the power of the mother nature in your favor, right, is where strength lies. As opposed to popular belief system, which is be aggressive, fight, respond. Now you gotta hold him accountable. You know, that's not strength, right? Somebody made an example, said when you go to the boxing arenas, right, where people are training to box, usually you don't have people charging at you trying to beat you up. That's not usually how it works. It's usually people that have not been trained to fight that charge at you and try to be aggressive and try to bully you, right? It's not people that are trained to do. People that are trained to do that, you tend to not be able to tell until you put yourself in the wrong position and they'll beat your ass up, right? So it's not wise to move around the street trying to bully everybody because you never know. You may just get your ass beat too, right? Because again, the most power lies in silence. As human beings, I'm not talking about as a lion because everybody try to bring the alpha thing equation, right? Alpha, beta, bullshit, sigma, all that kind of shit. We're not animals, we're human beings. That means we're driven by emotions 85% of the time, right?
Long as he keeps doing what he's doing.
Oh yeah, we do justify it with logic, but it's justification. But we're driven by emotions 85% of the time. Yeah. And if you don't agree, you're just full of shit, like the rest of us, okay?
He came out on Instagram. This is so funny. He came out on Instagram to talk about all this a few days ago, and I thought, you nailed it, Joe. He came out and he said, it's a paraphrase, and I'm going to do it a bit comedically. He basically said, well, everyone knows I'm kind of a lunkhead, and I have lots to learn, and I probably haven't managed this like perfectly.
Yeah. So I probably haven't managed it perfectly. I should apologize. I probably should. I don't have enough work. All that kind of stuff can actually be used against him. Now, I do agree that apologies can be necessary, but more often than not, it's not necessary, especially within romantic relationships. If it's not accompanied by changed behavior, it's useless. As a matter of fact, what you're doing is you're building more resentment. You're building lack of trust. You're basically deleting trust out of your relationship by apologizing over and over again and not making sure that it's accompanied by changed behavior. Eventually, she's going to, because she's human and she can be logical too, she's going to figure out that your apology is useless, right? And then, but not only that, from an emotional standpoint, she will have a hard time, she or he, it could be he too, right? We have a hard time being able to trust you, right? For obvious reasons, because again, you've proven to not deserve that trust over and over and over again. And then you're going to become like, why don't you just trust me? Why don't you just respect and submit to me? Like, no, those things are 100% of the time earned. I know it's unfair. I know it doesn't align with what you probably read in your scripture. But that's not reality. That's a fantasy. It's a fantasy land when you think a woman is just going to submit to you regardless. That's fantasy land, okay? A woman naturally wants to submit. She doesn't naturally submit. She naturally wants to submit, okay? Because in fact, that's where she's enjoying life the most, where she's submitting to your authority, to your proven leadership, right? Or maybe a facade. It could be that she's in love. She doesn't really know you. That could create submission too. Again, the infatuation of the newness, the excitement in newness. You don't really know this guy, so of course you submit. All right. Now, if you continue to now add to that love tank by being consistent, then she will submit, right? But generally speaking, we all get complacent. You're gonna get in a space where you will lose a little bit of respect, and then you still have the power to absolutely attract that respect back by being consistent. Time, space, patience. These are the only way. I know it's not sexy. You want like an exact science answer, but that's not how it works. That's just not how it works, okay? So that's what I wanted to cover with respect to the Joe Rogan story, right?